Life Audio.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations.
We want families to come here and gain insightful strategies that empower them to successfully teach diverse learners at home.
Hosted by founder and CEO of SPED Homeschool, Peggy Ployer.
Our goal is that these powerful weekly conversations will boost your confidence to cultivate the best at-home learning environment for your student.
For more homeschool resources, go to spedhomeschool.com. You're listening to Empowering Homeschool Conversations with Peggy Ployer. We'll start the conversation with Peggy and her guests next.
The best-selling illustrated Bible for kids and teens, the Action Bible, is now better than ever. The Action Bible Faith in Action Edition is an interactive Bible specifically created for kids and teens ages 7 to 15. The Faith in Action Edition is designed to engage young readers in God's Word through hundreds of vividly illustrated Bible stories in chronological order with activities and games. Readers will grow in God's Word by using QR codes, providing free access to over 2,000 devotionals, hundreds of prayers, character stories, teaching videos, maps, timelines, and much more. Additionally, the Action Bible Faith in Action Edition allows readers to explore the major themes of the Bible like courage, faith, hope, love, service, trust, and wisdom. Each theme provides practical advice on how to live out God's Word. The Action Bible Faith in Action Edition is the best interactive Bible you can purchase for your child or teen. Purchase your copy today at Sam's Club, Barnes & Noble, or Amazon.
I'm Billy Yancey, entrepreneur, fitness cowboy, father, retired Navy cornerback, and now podcast host. Listen to my new show, Billy and the Goat, on Life Audio. Happy listening.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com. Here's Peggy Ployer.
Today, we're going to hear from another homeschool veteran and their story on being a homeschool overcomer and how our guest moved from fear to freedom in her homeschooling. Our special guest is Karena Moss, homeschool mama with over a decade of experience, author of Leap of Faith, and creator of Homeschooling Your Way. She empowers rebel homeschool moms to redefine the status quo by demystifying and shattering misconceptions around homeschooling. Welcome, Karena. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What a fantastic introduction.
Oh, well, I try. Sometimes I say everything wrong and and I just go, oh. Anyways, it's live, it's what you get. So I'm so excited for you to share with us. This month, we're focusing on veteran homeschool mom stories that just can encourage. This is the time of year when a lot of people are starting to homeschool or thinking, do I really have to go through this again another year? And how am I going to survive? And we just want to, put some people out in front of you that have been there, done that. They have walked the road, they've made the journey, and they survived. and they're here to share their stories. So that's what we're kind of focusing on. And Karena, when we had talked, I had said, what about your story really stands out? And she said to me, the fear to freedom move that shifted in her homeschooling. And so we're really going to focus on that from her story. But I would love, as we're getting started, just for you to do an introduction to our viewers, let them know a little bit about you and your family, and then we'll kind of start diving into the topic from there.
Absolutely. Like Peggy said, my name is Karena Moss. I've been homeschooling for over a decade. I just finished my 13th year.
Awesome.
I know, right? I have 4 kids. 2 are in college, and now I have 2 that are in high school. So a rising freshman and a rising junior. We have always kind of been that accelerated family, and it certainly wasn't on purpose. We kind of dripped into it. I pulled my kids out of public school, my 2 older ones. Simon was halfway through 2nd grade, and my oldest daughter at the time was halfway through kindergarten. And so I met with the teachers before we walked out of school, and they both said, we don't know what to do. So we can't tell you where to start halfway through the year. So you either have to start over or just kind of guess or just kind of push them forward.
Which is kind of what you do when you homeschool anyways. It's a lot of guessing.
So I decided to push them forward, knowing that if, we needed to, we could pull back and redo or whatever. And so that's what we did. We pushed them forward. And so my oldest son, he's going to graduate from college in December, and he's 20. And then my oldest daughter will graduate when she's 19 from college. And then the other two are coming up in the pipeline. So it's been good and bad. Obviously, there's pros and there's cons. And
yeah,
that's like a whole nother day. But anyway, so I've homeschooled in 3 different states. That's also been interesting to follow the rules in 3 different states. I'm not one to follow the rules readily. I will try, and I do my level best to just kind of skim the top of what I have to do, and nothing more. I don't give them anything else than they really need.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I don't think a lot of people probably know about, just state expectations versus what sometimes you're asked, and the difference between that. Right.
So, for instance, recently in Virginia, they asked for a yearly schedule of your classes, what you're gonna do, and a lot of people kind of give them all the information. So, the name of the kid, and then we're going to do math with this program and for this many days. And we're going to, and they just kind of spew all this extra stuff. And they don't need to know that. They literally just need to know that my son is doing math, science, English, PE, writing, and I don't give them any other information.
Exactly.
So from that standpoint, it's just, that's what they asked for. That's what they're going to get.
Because it's hard too, because in the middle of the year, you could switch your curriculum and you're held accountable for whatever you reported to. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Absolutely. So if there's a problem and you don't test within the stay 9 that they required, then, you have to answer to the school district and how you're going to make sure that you're going to increase that child's score. And you might be, like you said, held accountable, show information, show, the stuff the work that they did. I also had the school district call me. Well, not call me. They sent me an email because I submitted our notice, and they called or they emailed and said that they still didn't have the notice of intent for my daughter. And through several emails, I finally figured out that they were talking about the wrong daughter.
Oh,
they kept calling her the wrong name. I'm like, oh my gosh. So once I figured out that they had the wrong daughter, then it made sense what they were asking me. But because she started college at 17, she was still, according to the school district, school age.
Right. Mandatory reporting. Yes.
So they were questioning where she was, why they didn't have their notice. And I, said, well, she's in college, so you're not going to get one. And so then they proceeded to ask information that they didn't. It wasn't within the boundaries of the law for them to ask. So I did contact HSLDA to make sure that I was within my legal rights, just to make sure before I responded. But they wanted a copy of her high school diploma. They wanted a copy of her acceptance letter at the university that she was attending. And then I was like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then they offered to send me a certificate of completion of high school.
Oh, how nice. Not that your diploma mattered anything.
It's like, no, thanks, I'm good. Yeah, for all your help. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's crazy. So yes.
Just little things like that if you weren't aware of your state's requirements, that's where a lot of people, I think, dip their toes a little too deep, and then it stresses them out, obviously, and it makes sense. Because then they pounce.
Right. Yes.
And more, and then you don't know how much more, and it's
Yeah. And I'm going to make a plug for HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. They are wonderful. We've been members throughout our homeschooling career. I have called them many times, asking questions similar to what Karena was talking about. Just nice to know that you have somebody who legally knows what's going on in your state, because every state's homeschool law is different. Yeah. And like you said, if you move, then you've got to totally re-up and change everything. Right. And so it's, different.
Yeah.
So,
and all the legislation that comes down and it just keeps you, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So, and you just never know when somebody's going to question or send you a letter like you got. And it's good to have those people to turn to.
Yeah. Absolutely. They've done a remarkable job.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So coming into homeschooling, what fears did you battle with?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Where do I start? I was a public school kid, came from a public school family. My sister is a public school teacher. So, when I announced that I got the download from God that this was what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah. I mean, it was just, well, how are you going to do that? I don't have any idea and not a clue. Well, you're not a teacher.
Right.
You don't know what to teach. You don't know how to teach it. Well, how are you going to know that they're within the standards, the state standards? How are you going to prove, or how are you going to measure up, or how are you going to, make sure that you don't make your kids stupid? I mean, that was like a huge fear, I mean, I would just make.
So were these questions coming from yourself, from others, or kind of a mix of both?
Well, people shared those with me.
How nice of them.
You're like, well, I hadn't thought of that till now. So, thanks for letting me know that you have that much faith in me.
Right.
That was, so just the confidence was horrible because, when you step into that world and you announce that you're going to do this, which is so not what is normal.
Right.
People really question whether or not you've just completely, fallen off the truck somewhere and you're just lost in the desert and need a little help and guidance. And so I was really scared. I thought, okay, they're right. I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to do this. Then you hear all the horror stories of people who got, picked up by social services because their neighbor turned them in because they didn't think they were doing any school. And so then they got charged with child abuse. And so, of course, that was my biggest fear. So for the longest time, we just didn't go anywhere during school hours. We didn't go to the grocery store. We didn't go to we just didn't do anything until the regular kids came home.
Right.
And then we would show our faces. And when we did, if I had to go to the doctor, we would always get questioned, at the grocery store. Oh, well, you're not in school. So is school out today? All the things, and then it was quiz time. Well, what's 2 + 2? Well, what is, and so
yes,
it was amazing. So you just think, then my biggest fear was that I would do something wrong. I would not file something.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I would file something right with the state and they would come after me and they would say that my kids' education was valid. And then, other hopes and dreams of college or Air Force Academy or, military,
whatever else they want to do,
or, whatever it was, would be dashed, and I would be pretty much completely responsible for their lack of, any sort of social skills or intelligence or future plans. I mean, I could pretty much ruin their lives in
just a couple seconds.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was crazy.
After a word from our sponsor, we'll dive back into this conversation. The best-selling illustrated Bible for kids and teens, the Action Bible, is now better than ever. The Action Bible Faith in Action Edition is an interactive Bible specifically created for kids and teens ages 7 to 15. The Faith in Action Edition is designed to engage young readers in God's Word through hundreds of vividly illustrated Bible stories in chronological order with activities and games. Readers will grow in God's Word by using QR codes, providing free access to over 2,000 devotionals, hundreds of prayers, character stories, teaching videos, maps, timelines, and much more. Additionally, the Action Bible Faith in Action Edition allows readers to explore the major themes of the Bible like courage, faith, hope, love, service, trust, and wisdom. Each theme provides practical advice on how to live out God's Word. The Action Bible Faith in Action Edition is the best interactive Bible you can purchase for your child or teen. Purchase your copy today at Sam's Club, Barnes & Noble, or Amazon.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for working everything out for my good. Help me trust in your perfect plan. Amen.
Father, thank you for loving and caring for me.
With Christian prayer meditation, you can pray along to prayers based on specific topics. Go to lifeaudio.com or search your favorite podcast app for Christian prayer meditation. You can also download the Abide app for biblical meditations at abide.com.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool. Go to spedhomeschool.com to get resources and support for teaching your unique learner at home.
We weren't required. The first place we homeschooled was in Arizona, and so there were no rules. There were no rules in Arizona. That part was nice, but when I handed in my notice of intent, the lady behind the glass at the superintendent's office, she was like, "Well, thanks, but we'll see you next year, and you have to come back and re-enroll your kids because you failed."
Oh, wow. I have never heard of somebody being told that.
Right? I was like,
crazy.
Excellent. And I thought, okay, well, you just threw the javelin, girl. So whether I fail, you will have to drag my dead body back to this window because I would never admit to you, of all people, that happened.
Oh,
so
wow.
There were no rules in Arizona, but it was just, it just was, it was just, people questioned you all the time. Well, how do you socialize your kids? Do they have any friends? That was it. Well, how are they going to do sport? Are they in sports? Well, do they do music? I mean, my father-in-law's big thing was, how are they going to do band? No. They're 5. I don't know.
Right.
So, yeah, it was I felt like the scrutiny was intense. And so you just got to the point where you just held back. And so the first question, you never shared whether you were a homeschooler. It was always, I would provide the information if I was blatantly asked, where do your kids go to school? And you're like, oh.
Right. Yeah. Can't really skirt around that one.
Yeah. But it was definitely just fear of not cutting it. Just not cutting it is when you take that first standardized test and you think, oh, dear Lord.
Right.
Please let them know what an adjective is. I mean, let's just at least pass. Let's just, so I don't have to explain myself to the school district. So that was that, and just having somebody tell me that I had not, and I didn't care about my own failure. I just didn't want to be the sole person responsible for the complete and utter ruin of my kids. That I had decided to blaze a different trail, and now their entire future was, in shambles because I wasn't smart enough. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You don't know where to find the stuff. You name it. I mean, it was there. And people would remind me all the time. It would be like, well, do you think did they learn anything this year? I don't know. We'll find out.
Right. Exactly. Especially when they're that young too. It's like, and you're not like testing them or, and then, like you said, in some states those standardized tests are required. And that was something I had in Minnesota when we homeschooled there. And it was kind of that little bit of piece that I would come back from the test and they'd test it. Yeah. 2nd grade, they were at 12th grade level. And for something, it was like, oh, I'm good in that one. Not really. They did, but I was at least helpful in that process.
Yeah. No, it was so stressful. Yeah. So Colorado, it was every odd year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what that was, but yeah, the whole every odd year. So just
Right. Well, and it's hard too when you're talking, it's not only self-talk, it's, people that you probably look to for confirmation, especially family members, and that makes it really hard. I think a lot of people that are homeschooling now post-COVID don't realize the pressure that a lot of us were under when we homeschooled pre-COVID, because we were questioned so much more than people are now. They're like, homeschooling tends to be now just something that everybody accepts people do because they all had to do it.
Right.
And so those fears were real.
We homeschooled during COVID. I'm like,
yeah, it's not the same. Yeah.
My neighbor came up to me during COVID and she's like, oh, I know what it's like now. I mean, we've been homeschooling for the last week.
Oh,
and I totally understand what you've done. And I'm like, I was just, okay. I mean, there aren't very many times where I'm speechless, but I was like, I don't even know where to start with that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Absolutely. Yes. It's very different than having school in your home and orchestrating it all yourself and having that pressure. I think that's the overwhelming of what I've been hearing you say, all those fears. It was the pressure that you felt upon yourself to help your children succeed. And that can create a lot of fear. And every time that something comes up to make us question that, which is like daily, you relive those fears. So how did you start going about combating those fears? What were some things that came into place, either mindset wise or just things that happened along the way that started changing that fear into more embracing your freedoms?
Right. I think the biggest thing was that I just, I started seeing the success with my kids learning. My oldest daughter didn't learn how to read like in kindergarten at all. So when I pulled her out, she hadn't even started learning how to read. And right. So of course, everybody's like, well, have you ever taught anybody how to read? No. So when, we pushed her into first grade, of course, they're already assuming that you could read in first grade. But the program that we used was just fantastic. I still tell people to use it to this day because I think it's the best out there. But once she started...
Okay, so you got to mention it before you move on.
I'm hands down at Becca Phonics. I mean, that is, I think that is the most thorough phonics out there. It's easy to follow. It's great for parents. I mean, especially if you have no idea. I mean, I didn't learn how to read a phonics. If I did,
I didn't even know what phonics was when I started homeschooling. So
I'm like, you have no idea. I'm like, what is a sound ladder? What?
Yeah, exactly.
So not a clue. And so it was intense just because we started at ground zero. And then, by the end of first grade, we were literally reading all of the first grade stuff, and so we just went, which was fantastic. But when you first start out, I mean, there's a lot of frustration and tears, and you're like, okay, so I'm not getting it. So therefore she's not getting it. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But, and it wasn't overnight either. I mean, cause it's that slow process of seeing the progress, seeing that, okay, we're reading harder books this year than we were reading last year. And we actually understand, the math, and she's not coming to me all the time asking me the same questions, or the handwriting's good. I mean, it was these little steps where I thought, okay, so if they're doing the work without me on top of them all day long, then that means that they are obviously learning something. And that means that either I'm doing something right or what I bought is doing its job. I mean, something's working, right?
Right.
So little by little, you start to see, okay, this is working. And then it really comes down to you not necessarily putting your blinders on, but just tuning out the noise, just not listening. And if that means cutting the cord with the negative nannies of the world, then that's that's just what you do. I mean,
Right.
it becomes a topic that you don't talk about, you don't talk about school in any capacity. You don't talk about their school. You don't talk about your school. You just don't talk about school because that's just something that they just don't understand. I mean, to this day, I still have friends that are just like, so like, what do you do? That is because they can't, like, they just literally can't visualize that we actually have curriculum. You know, it's not just every morning I wake up and I'm like, I think we're going to do this today. Right.
Yep. Field trip.
We're going to make it up. HSLDA was also huge because I knew that if I did screw up, they would cover me. I wasn't hanging out there all by myself. So I knew that they had them in my back pocket. They knew that, and becoming from a legal background, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm covered with that. And then right before we left Arizona, it was probably maybe a year before we left Arizona, I met a lady at church, and she was probably the most homeschool guru I have ever met in my entire life. I mean, I was amazed. I mean, she opened it up to there's book learning, and then there's what she did, which was, adding it on and accentuating it, making it really cool. I mean, she was like the unit study queen.
Yes.
I mean, she had like 8 cribs in her basement, and every Friday there would be, however many families that she could have come over. The babies would all go down for a nap at the same time. The older children would do something else. The middle people would be, it was just this whole thing. And at the end of the school year, they had a big party. That year they did World War II. She changed her entire house and backyard into like a battlefield with tanks, and you were right. I know, World War II. Were you German or were you U.S.? And the hats and the weapons and the dog tags, they made their own. They had Rosie the Riveter pictures going on. They were right. I mean, it was just, I thought, oh my gosh, this is what community looks like, for one, because you don't get that picture.
Right.
Normally. And just seeing how that could actually happen. How you could do that,
Right. Yeah.
So that helped just tremendously open it up and think, okay, so that's how that works. I don't know whether I want to do that, like, on a consistent basis.
Right. We're not all called to be that.
My kids would never have gone down for a nap in somebody else's basement. I mean, that just wouldn't have happened, but it was like, wow, that's just really cool. So that part was neat, to be able to see how other people just did it. And then when we moved to a different state, and knowing that I didn't have to worry about where I lived. I mean, other than, of course, wanting to feel safe, but I didn't have to worry about school districts and, all the things. And we started planning for high school way sooner than other people did. And that felt right to me. It didn't feel right to wait. And Can you
talk a little bit about that? Because I think people have often asked me, they're like, when do you know that your child is ready to start doing because especially for gifted kids, how did you kind of come to that piece of saying, yeah, we're ready to move on
to the next level?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing because each kid has been really different what they've even done.
Yeah.
Through high school and then with dual enrollment in college. But for one, I lay out their whole high school plan in like 8th grade. So I start thinking about it in 7th. By the time they're in 8th grade, I've got a grid going, literally a piece of paper divided into 4. And I write down all the core subjects that obviously they're taking, math, science, all the stuff, when they're taking it. And then I just kind of fill in some things that I know that they're probably going to want to do. Like 2 of my kids did a program. It's called 1 Year Adventure Novel. So they wrote an entire book, in a year. Mm-hmm. So fun. My other 2 were like, yeah, no. Yeah. No, I didn't have class. So, something else happened with that. But when you do that and you write it all out on the grid, you can actually start seeing the holes of you're kind of out of ideas. You're not that I can't come up with more, but I'm like, but why would I? I mean, I've tapped them out of me with writing. I think they need to be writing for somebody else. You know, we've done persuasive writing. We've done format writing. We've done structure writing. We've done creative writing. No
more writing left.
Right?
Yeah.
What do we do now? So, you know, that kind of stuff, when you start planning like that, you start seeing holes of,
right.
Okay, so if you know kind of what you want to go either to school for, college for, or you're not going to do that, you're going to do trade school or military or whatever else, you kind of have, you know, an idea of what they're looking at.
Exactly.
But, you know, and you don't want to overwhelm them and have them take all 5 classes of dual enrollment, but, you know, definitely start with a subject that they're good at, that they excel at.
Yes.
Favorite thing to do. Mm-hmm. They hate math. Don't throw them into a dual enrollment math class. But that's kind of how I knew, because I thought, okay, I don't know what we're going to do for writing next year. I'm out. I mean, we've done everything. We can either redo it again, or I don't know. But it seems that we should do something harder.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And with somebody else's voice, because they've had our voice for so long.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That somebody else's writing style and requirements for the writing is different, you know, because they might have learned all the things, but then when they start writing for somebody else, that other person is like, no, I want it this way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It may not be the way they learned it. It may not be the way they like to write it. It may not even be right.
Exactly.
But it teaches them that, well, if that's what the assignment is, then that's how you write the assignment, because that's the parameters that you were given. So you're going to get that in school. You're going to get that in life. You're going to get that in your job. You're going to get that in whatever it is. So that's a life lesson on, you know, as well. So by the time my kids were probably juniors, we were definitely doing a dual enrollment of some sort.
Wow. So in overcoming your fears, I've heard shutting out the noise, and then also finding community, and then planning and letting go. So do you have anything to add to those, or anything else that have helped you to overcome your fears?
I think it's interesting that you asked about the dual enrollment piece, because that was really the moment that all the fear just kind of, it just stopped. Literally it just stopped. I mean, one day I was just like, okay, so I'm planning what Simon's going to be doing. He's going to be taking his SAT, did that, check. Now we're trying to decide what college we're going to take those dual enrollment credits from. And it just kind of hit me. I was like, what are they going to do? I mean, at this point in time,
right?
I mean, at this point in time, what are they going to do to me? They can't do anything to me, because I feel like I've checked all the boxes. I've marked all the things. I've jumped through all the hoops. And I just thought, I'm good. You know, bring it, you know? And then I took that attitude that I had with Simon, because he was my oldest.
Right.
To kind of trickle down, you know, to my younger ones, because at the time he was, let's see, my youngest and my oldest are 7 years apart. So, you know, he's still in, you know, middle school, coming up through elementary. And so he was still obviously hadn't proven completely that I,
right.
But I just had a different mindset at that point in time. I was like, no, I think I did this. I think I did it. I think we did it. And I think I know what I'm doing. And I know, I don't feel like I need to apologize for it anymore. I don't feel like I have to explain myself. I don't feel like I have to, you know, convince people that it was that my decision was okay. I was like, all right, no, I think I'm done with that. And that was it, and people will still ask me about socialization. And I laugh at this point in time because I just think, no.
Well, your self-confidence has increased so much.
Yeah.
Just, I think a lot of people, and I talk about this a lot too, we look at veteran homeschoolers, and the perception as a young homeschooler just getting started is I'm not that person. I'm not like Karena. I don't have that confidence, but you don't start out with that confidence.
No, you don't start out with the confidence. You don't start out as that person either. I mean, I'm certainly not the same person now as I was 13 years ago. I never in a bajillion years would have thought that I would have homeschooled. It was never on my radar. I mean,
right.
Ever. When God called me to homeschool, I was like, no, really? I think you hit the wrong mic button. I think you meant to call her next door. Maybe you can check that phone number. I don't know. I think that I'm just not sure you got the right person. So I'm certainly, hands down, not the same person. Homeschooling is definitely, I can say with 100% that it has been the most consequential event in my life. I mean, there is nothing to compare to it in any respect. As a person, as a mom, as just your own personal growth. Yeah. It's just, there's literally nothing like it. It's so, and I love that you're empowering homeschool conversations, because it is you're so empowered by the fact that you are in charge of what your kids get to do. Absolutely. Because every single one of them is going to do something different. Their paths are not going to be the same, and it's custom education, and there's just nothing like it. I mean, there's just nothing can touch it. And when that finally hits, you're just like, all right, yes, good. And when the school district emailed me last year, I mean, it was comical, because I thought, if I had gotten that email at any other time, I would have probably been panic. Right. Yes. I think we emailed back and forth 7 or 8 times. Wow. That's how hard she was coming at me. And every time I was like, okay. But I was like, I will take you to the mat. But I was like, no, I did not start off with that. Right. I would have been close to tears probably if that had happened my first 5 years of homeschool, because I would have thought, oh my gosh, right. They're going to take me away in chains. Yeah. So, I mean, we go down those rabbit holes of what if, or, if I don't do something perfectly right, it's going to all cascade into something, so awful. What do you want to say to parents that may have that tendency about how to kind of stop themselves in that thinking? I remember the first year we finished our homeschooling, and we were a part of a church, and every Sunday he would start the service by, after the announcements, he would kind of pass the mic around. It was a small church. Pass the mic around to the parishioners, and he would just, be like, so, any prayer requests, any praises, what do you want to share type thing. And I am not one to ask for the mic in church at all. But, when the Holy Spirit grabs a hold of you, you're like, and so I got up, and I said, I was like, we literally just finished our first year of homeschooling. I couldn't tell you how. I have no idea how we got it accomplished, because it was crazy. We did way more work than we probably needed to do. But the only reason I know that I'm standing here today telling you that we literally finished our school, 100 and whatever 70 lessons it was, is God just brought me through it all. He just literally, it's like the Footprints poem. He literally carried me that whole year, because I had no idea what I was doing. We were all just kind of floundering and just kind of trying to figure it out. And it was a fantastic year. Don't get me wrong. It was great. We were so happy we weren't going to school.
Oh, yeah.
But the fear, my kids didn't ever know that, I was terrified. But I was like, that's what it was. I mean, it was making God a part of what I was doing. So every decision that I made, every time I went down that rabbit trail of, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I can't figure this out, I can't do this. And it kept coming back. You can do hard things. You can do hard things. And how do I know that you can do hard things? Because you are made in my image. I know you can do hard things.
Beautiful.
Because I made you. And I told you to do this. I called you. I'm equipping you as you're going. I didn't call you knowing that you had it all figured out,
Absolutely.
I called you knowing that I was going to show up every day and equip you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that is how, because you're not listening to anybody else, because you're not doing this for anybody else. No. You're not doing it for you. You're probably doing it for your kids, but at the end of the day, whose are they? They're God's. So you are taking care of what belongs to him anyway, and raising them up the way they should go. Right.
Yep.
So it was literally faith. I mean, that is what drowns out the fear, right? Faith over fear every single time.
Absolutely.
And of course it's easy to spout off now. You got to remind yourself on a daily basis, faith over fear, faith over fear.
Yes.
But, it's totally true, because otherwise you can easily fall into the pit of, we're never going to get anywhere, and this was a bad decision, and so-and-so doesn't agree with me, and it's okay. It's okay that they don't agree with you. They didn't get your vision. It's not their vision, it's your vision.
Exactly. Yes.
And as long as you just keep telling yourself that day after day after day after day, 13 years goes by in a flash. And right, as you know, you're like, whoa, what happened?
Exactly.
How are we in here? And because at the beginning it does feel like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just overwhelmed.
12 more years? I don't know if I'm that creative to come up with 12 more years of stuff. Yeah. But it's just amazing how every year it just falls into place.
It does.
Then, and then you're done, and then it falls into place.
It does. Yeah.
And it's nothing short of just grace that gets you through it. So.
Oh, so true. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of our parents, they have kids with special needs in our community, and really there's so much conflicting, even research out there, and you feel so conflicted with, what do I choose? Because, and then you feel like, like you were talking about, the weight of the world, it feels like it's on you for your kids, but yet it's on God. It's not on you. And you need to, follow him, because he's got it already worked out.
Right.
And just wait on his timing and his resources, and just pray. Because it will all fall into place, but it is getting beyond that fear, because the enemy wants us to fall into that fear and to stay in that place, because that's when we're not productive. When we come to that peace and just start moving forward and just take one day at a time, that's when you just, like you said, you live by grace one day at a time.
Well, and the moment you succumb to that fear, you quit.
Yeah, you do.
I can't tell you how many homeschool parents I've met. They're just like, oh yeah, well, high school is really hard. So, we're just going to end in middle school, and we're just going to put our kids back in public school for high school. I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, high school is fun. I mean,
it is.
You did all this work, and now all of a sudden you're just going to be done.
Yeah. I mean, so what was the pinnacles of your high school times with the kids you've already had through high school? What's been the best?
The conversations. Yeah. The conversations. I mean, the books that you get to read together, and the themes, the stuff that they come up with, and you're like,
exactly.
That's pretty good. I didn't get that, but I can see where you're coming from. So, being able to read books together, I read what my kids read, being able to talk about just the stuff, right? All the stuff that's going on, and the politics, the news, just everything. And being the first ones to talk about it, I mean, there's a lot of parents who are like, oh, well, we just talk about that. I'm like, why? Someone's going to talk to us about it, and you better be the first one to do it.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's been the best part about all of it, is having the conversations, and then seeing how independent they've become in their learning, because I mean, that's the bottom line. We don't, right? We're teaching them roots and wings, right? Independence, but still requiring assistance when they need it. And the independence is just cool, because
it is.
There's so much freedom. Well, for me, and because they're in high school and they're doing the work, and they've,
right.
I'm not doing much,
You just kind of get to enjoy it at that point.
Right, I'm just kind of monitoring things. I'm like, good job.
Yeah.
But so conversations, and just literally watching them take ownership, and especially when those college applications come in, or when they have to make those phone calls, or when the recruiter calls, and they have to talk to them, and it's seeing them, change their posture, and they're like, oh, this is an important phone call, and they can do it, and they're good at it, and they're good at speaking, they're articulate, and they're not afraid of change or new things, or learning new things, or just it doesn't work. Is it not working because I really just don't like it, or I'm just not trying hard enough and I'm not giving it a go, or do I really need this in my life? Just pull the plug. So I love that part. I love that part. I mean, it's great when they're little. I mean, I've loved every stage, but high school it's just like this beautiful culmination of they've learned so much, and now they get to practice being an adult,
Yes. In a safe environment, and
right. And it's so cool. It really is. It's just so cool. And you just, and then you think, aren't I that age? When did I become, wait a minute, that's not right. I'm not that old. I still feel like I could go to college. So, and then you want to do it all again, because all the cool things that they're learning that you didn't learn. And
Yep.
And just being able to pick, just pick what they want to do. And each of them has been different, what they want to study. And that's been cool because you really get to know the nitty gritty of your kids' personalities, and what they like and what they don't like, and how they operate and how they learn. And I mean, I have one kid that she does not want me to read out loud, like, ever. Ever. She's like, yeah, no, don't read that to me. Okay.
We can let somebody else with the audiobook, but yes, I'm fine.
She hates anything read to her. She wants to read it herself. And so would I've known that? I don't know.
Yeah. There's just so many things that I think I would have missed had my kids been in public school, and I wouldn't have had the voice to speak into their lives as much as I had the opportunity to, because they were with me all the time. And then you see that come back when they start, branching out, going to college and moving out. They come back to you, They
want to be with you.
Yes.
They enjoy hanging out with you, become friends. And it's just, there's just, and people will complain about that. They're like, oh, I'm just never alone. Is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
I mean,
a long time is okay.
You're going to be alone. People won't always be around. So yeah, I mean, I was just never that mom that was excited about sending their kids back to school, at the end of summer. I didn't want that. I was like, oh, summer's going to end. I don't want summer to be over. So
yeah. So question for you. So homeschooling has changed you. Okay. What is the most surprising way that homeschooling has changed you?
Oh, how interesting. I would say that I wouldn't have thought that, I know I'm opinionated. I've known that about myself for years. I'm opinionated and passionate, if you haven't noticed. But I always thought that education was standard.
Yeah.
You do elementary school and you learn to read at this age, and you do this science, and you should be good at that, and you should be good at math, and if you aren't, then sometime you'll figure it out, but maybe not. But if you don't, that's okay. Just don't ask questions, because questions are bad. You just get through it.
And that's how we were taught.
Right. That's it. Yeah. And so it's just hurry up and get through it, because there's something better later. There's got to be. I mean, please tell me.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise I give up.
And, just the confidence of it, because it's not like it's not like I had confidence poured into me when I was in public school. I mean,
oh yeah.
Or even college for that matter. I mean, no way. So I think it's been surprising that I actually started to love to learn again. I mean, I had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, so I'm just going to be the mom. I'm going to be the best room mom ever. And I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be there. I'm going to volunteer, and I'm going to go on field trips and do all the things. But the teachers are going to be who educates, who teaches my kid. I'll just kind of be the helper on the sideline, because that was kind of like what you're told, right?
The model we're given, yeah.
Right, You're delegated to be the helper. And it was surprising that it was such a complete and total 180 shift in my mind of, but the education system isn't like for my kids.
Right.
I mean, they don't support me. I mean, why? Why? I mean, because that's what we're told, right? It's education that's the best. They're gonna do the best for your kids, and it's just not how it played out. And so, as I was homeschooling, I started to love to learn again, and I learned that I wasn't stupid. I could do math. I can do story problems. And writing and reading and having and I was an English major, so I love to read. And so I am the books that I get to read with my kids.
Yeah.
And so it's been surprising to be able to think, oh, I don't have to do like what they tell me. I mean, a little bit for the most part, as long as I'm just inside the line.
Right.
Yeah. Over the end. But I don't, if my kid doesn't want to do calculus 2 or physics, they don't have to. They could do anatomy if they wanted, or they could do,
geology
or marine biology or oceanography, or, the basic mechanics of cars. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Something. Our culinary arts. I mean, they could do so much. I mean, there's so many kids that I know that are pilots. They're getting their pilot license before they get their driver's license.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. You're like, I'm not sure I know. But I think what surprised me was that I really kind of decided that the education system was not my standard.
Yeah.
And I thought, so if they're not my standard, who is my standard? Who is the standard in my school or in anybody's school? Because if we're all running around with different standards, but I think that's where, again, God comes into play, and Absolutely. He knows what your kids are, what they're going to become, what they're capable of, what they're going to be good at, what they're called to do, and so right now where we are in Virginia, there aren't any graduation requirements, which is fantastic. In Colorado, there were graduation requirements. Virginia just assumes that if you're going to graduate and go to college, well, you should know what you have to do to get to college.
You have enough on your transcript that they're going to accept you.
Yes. So better figure that out. Start asking questions at the colleges. What do I need to get to college?
Right, exactly.
So they give you a little bit of leash in some places and then not enough in others. But so I think that's been the surprising part of just thinking, I have not relied on the education system as a whole in over 13 years. I've never checked state standards. When I first started homeschooling, because of course everybody was like, how are you going to know? So right. I went to the California state standards because, right, they are that's the CAT test, California state standard test. So I went and I printed out.
Wow.
Out.
You got further than I did. I didn't even manage that.
It's like that thick.
My goodness.
I still have it just for, posterity.
You even moved with it.
Oh my gosh. I printed it out, and then, because I was like, okay, because my sister was not on board at all with me homeschooling. And so I was like, okay, fine. I will print it out and I will show her that I'm going to go through and I'm going to, I'm going to say, look, we have gotten all these standards done for kindergarten, and we did it all for first grade, and I did it all look, I have completed the entire standards for California. I have not looked at that. Not once. No. Not once. And people will ask me, well,
somehow you graduated 2 kids already.
And so I think for me, that was kind of a surprise. That was kind of a surprising thing, is just not waking up one morning and being like, why am I testing? Why am I grading my kid's paper and giving him a B? Why don't I just have them keep revising it until it's an A, so they know what excellence looks like?
Right.
And then strive for it.
And we don't stop before that.
Not just be like, oh, it's a B. Well, whatever. Accept it. Yeah. I was like, wait, but that's not what they teach you, right? That's not the standard that you have growing up. But it's even in your mind.
Right.
So I think that was the most surprising part, was that there was no longer a standard, government standard.
Right.
One that I was okay with, 2 that I was going to follow, and then being totally okay with that.
Right.
And knowing that any standard that I came up with was something that was God inspired, and
yes,
and that's what it's supposed to be. Because not every kid is going to learn the exact same thing at the exact same time.
No, exactly. Yes, they're going to just do it in their own time, and you can't standardize your kids into. I mean, they were created as individuals, and they'll reach those milestones as they were meant to reach them.
Right. Yeah. Because you've got the accelerated learners, then you have the learners that with disabilities. I've got friends with kids with dysgraphia and dyscalculia and dyslexia, and you've got all that stuff. And so,
yeah, they all eventually get to where they need to go.
They do,
and God knows what they're struggling with and how they're going to get there. The more we lean in, the better. Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, Karena. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the resources that you offer homeschoolers before we part, because I know you have some great things to share. And I've got your website up. It's KarenaMoss.com. But then also Karena shared some other resources with me, and they have longer URLs. So I'm going to put them into the description on the YouTube as well as in the podcast. So then you can just click on those, and you won't have to try to quick write them down off the screen. Yes. So why don't you share with us what links that you shared and what people can find there?
Let me know if I forget one. Okay. So yes, of course you can follow me on my social channels. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I do have a Facebook page or a Facebook group. It's called Homeschooling Your Way. And I named it that because we all homeschool our own way, and we should,
absolutely.
Yes, definitely learn from one another. So that's the group that you are more than happy to, or more than welcome to join. And then of course I have my website. My website is, I have some homeschool swag up there, and it's not normal homeschool swag. It's just things that I have found: sweatshirts, t-shirts, stickers. We're a big sports family, so I've got some softball t-shirts and some football t-shirts, and I have a sweatshirt that says, "Oh, honey," because how many times do we say that?
Yes. That's great.
And then of course my book is on there, Leap of Faith, and that was again God inspired book of just inspired by true life events, and hopefully inspiration and encouragement to moms that are either are homeschooling or are thinking about homeschooling.
Yeah.
And let's see, I have my courses on there. I've done a couple of different masterclass courses that just kind of start you, if you're just starting out with homeschooling, kind of what you need to do, how you navigate those beginning steps of HSLDA and state homeschool associations and the curriculum types that are out there, and even the learning styles that that we run into, and how you navigate those, and how do you pick curriculum, and how do you, just not be in the kitchen 24/7, and, all the things that we do, because we're kind of that mom and then, a little extra. So,
right.
So yeah, you'll find that all on my website as well. So, by all means, if you're interested, sign up for my newsletters, and you'll just get all the good things. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So that's where you find me.
Super. Well, thanks for sharing all of that, and definitely reach out to Karena, check out our website, and also make sure to check out our website at spedhomeschool.com. We've got a lot of resources for you to homeschool your struggling learners and those with disabilities. That's kind of what we focus on. So we'd love to come by, help you with various resources and swag that we have as well. Lots of freebies and downloads that you can tap into. So thank you, Karena, for sharing your story, the encouragement. Hopefully everybody who's listened is a little less fearful now and a little encouraged by your story. And I just appreciate you being real and sharing from your heart.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And so we are focusing this month on stories from our community. And so we'll have another guest with a community story actually tomorrow. Carrie Beck is going to be on. She's going to tell us how she transformed education by defying the traditional education model, being trained as a teacher and then having to revamp that to become a home educator. And so you'll want to join us for that broadcast tomorrow. So thanks again, Karena. Appreciate your time and your sharing, and thank all of you for joining us for this live conversation. And we'll see you again next time, same place. And God bless until then. Bye, everybody. I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations with Peggy Ployer.
The love of God is immeasurable. It's unchanging. It's indescribable. Because God loves you so much, you can sleep through the night in peace. With Abide Bible Sleep Meditation, you can fall asleep fast with relaxing sleep stories based on Scripture. To start listening now, go to lifeaudio.com or search your favorite podcast app for Abide Bible Sleep Meditation. You can also download the Abide app for more biblical meditations at abide.com.